Do you prefer a 40-hour work week, or would you rather go back to the 70-hour work weeks in the good old days? Thank Henry Ford for the change. Business hero or zero? You decide. Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, was born in Springwells Township, Wayne County, Michigan on July 30, 1863. He was the eldest of 6 children in a family of 4 boys and 2 girls. His father, William Ford, was a native of County Cork, Ireland, and his mother's name was Mary Lidogat. Henry Ford developed an early interest in mechanics and spent much of his time in a small machine shop that he equipped himself. At the age of 15, he built his first steam engine. He later became a machinist's apprentice in Detroit, where he honed his skills and knowledge. In 1891, Ford took a job as an engineer at the Edison Illuminating Company of Detroit and quickly rose to the position of chief engineer. It was during this time that Thomas Edison, the renowned inventor, became a mentor and friend to Ford. Henry Ford's career in automobiles began in 1893 when he constructed a small one-cylinder gasoline model driven by his interest in internal combustion engines. The first Ford engine came to life on a wooden table in his home in Detroit and eventually powered his first automobile, known as the quadricycle, which he completed in June 1896. On August 19, 1899, Henry Ford resigned from the Edison Illuminating Company and, along with others, organized the Detroit Automobile Company. Unfortunately, the company went into bankruptcy about 18 months later. During this time, Henry Ford designed and built several racing cars. In October 1901, he defeated Alexander Winton with one of his cars, called Sweepstakes, on a track in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. A month later, Henry Ford founded his second automobile venture, the Henry Ford Company, but he left this enterprise, which later became the Cadillac Motor Car Company in early 1902. He then set a world record for the mile in another one of his racing cars, the 999, covering the distance in 39.4 seconds on January 12, 1904, on the winter ice of Lake Sinclair. On June 16, 1903, Henry and 12 others invested $28,000 to create the Ford Motor Company. The first car built by the company was sold on July 15, 1903. Henry owned 25.5% of the stock in the new organization, and he became president and controlling owner in 1906. In 1919, Henry, Clara, and Edsel Ford acquired the interest of all minority stockholders for $105,820,894, becoming the sole owners of the company. Edsel, who succeeded his father as the president in 1919, occupied that position until his death in 1943. After Edsel's death, Henry Ford turned as CEO and president. The American work week is a fundamental part of our society. We have established it as a standard 40-hour week, and it's now commonly referred to as the 9 to 5. However, this standard was not always in place. During the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution led to a norm of 70-hour work weeks, with men, women, and children, enduring 14-hour days. In the mid-19th century, the first legislation to limit the workday was introduced, initially only for federal employees. It was not until 1919, when the International Labor Organization held its first conference, that a 48-hour workweek limit was agreed upon. In 1926, the Ford Motor Company was the first American company to adopt the 5-day, 40-hour workweek, reducing employees' work schedule from 6 to 5 days. This move was driven by Henry Ford's belief that increased consumer spending was vital, stating that leisure is an indispensable ingredient in a growing consumer market, because working people need to have enough free time to find uses for consumer products, including automobiles. Subsequently, other companies followed suit, and in 1940, the Fair Labor Standards Act established the 40-hour workweek as a government standard, which required companies to pay their employees overtime for any work beyond 40 hours a week. This set the guidelines for the modern workweek that we adhere to today. It all began in the 1800s when activists and labor groups pushed for better working conditions. However, their efforts were largely ignored because America was undergoing a transportation revolution and needed labor to build. Nearly 50 years later, the newly formed National Labor Union once again advocated for the 8-hour workday, but Congress rejected their proposal. In response, workers organized a massive strike in Chicago on May 1st, which became known as May Day. President Ulysses S. Grant then granted an 8-hour workday to government employees in the hope that the private industry would follow suit, but this did not happen. After additional strikes and demonstrations, 2 major firms in the print industry implemented the 8-hour workday. Railroads followed a decade later, and in 1926, Henry Ford, a pioneer of the automobile industry, instituted a 40-hour workweek policy. Interestingly, Ford's decision was driven by the realization that employees needed time off to spend money, as working constantly left no time for leisure and shopping. Congress eventually passed the Fair Labor Standards Act in 1938, establishing a 44-hour workweek, and an amendment 2 years later shortened it to 40 hours. Finally, in October 1940, the 8-hour workday and 40-hour workweek became the standard practice for industries worldwide, though many people still work longer hours than this standard. Henry Ford not only advocated for the 40-hour workweek, but he also famously more than doubled his employees' daily pay. In 1914, Ford employees saw their daily pay increase from $2.25 to $5, which was a significant change for the time. This change was primarily driven by a high turnover rate among the workers. The demanding nature of assembly line work led many employees to quit, which negatively impacted both production and Ford's expenses, as they had to invest time and resources in training new staff. So, if you were a Ford employee during that time, which change do you think would have been more meaningful to you? The doubled pay or the 40-hour workweek? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to check out our next video and remember to like and subscribe to our channel.